Member for Dunkley.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Since Federation, nearly 2 million Australian servicemen and women have served our nation. I've always been a proud and strong supporter of our veterans, not only in my electorate, but across Victoria and across our nation. I will always be grateful for the courage and the sacrifice of the brave men and women who have put on a uniform to defend our nation. And I understand this personally as well, being the great-grandson of a veteran from World War I, being the grandson of a grandfather who served in the Navy at HMAS Cerberus, and being the son of a father who served for a period of time in the Army based at Balcombe in Mount Martha on the Mornington Peninsula. In a few weeks' time, Mr Deputy Speaker, on the 11th of November, we as a country of many will commemorate the centenary of the First World War armistice. It is a day to reflect and to respect those who have served on our behalf. The Anzac Centenary has given us strengthened national awareness and increased knowledge of Australia's military history and the service and sacrifice of earlier and current generations of Australian servicemen and women. Just this July, Mr Deputy Speaker, I had the opportunity to visit France and to go to Villers-Bretonneux and to see the new Sir John Monash Centre there, as well as the Naas Caves, where the inscriptions of those who served during World War I and in other conflicts are on the walls within those caves. And I must thank the deputy of the Somme region there, Jean-Claude Leclabat, for the opportunity to go with him to see a number of these sites that commemorate the service not only of our veterans, but from other veterans who served in those conflicts. I've also seen this awareness reinvigorated locally in Dunkley, with 4 community organisations and schools recently receiving grants under the Armistice Centenary Grants program to appropriately commemorate the anniversary, drawing on our local heritage and the recognition across the community of the significance of the sacrifices made. Those who have received these grants include the Seaford RSL sub-branch, who have received funds to expand their Cenotaph area, the Mornington and District Historical Society, who have received funds to display their memorabilia from the First World War that includes photos of soldiers, medals and old coins, Frankston RSL, who have received funds towards the new Frankston War Memorial and the commemorations that will be held there this coming November. And lastly, Elizabeth Murdoch College in Langwarrin, who have received funds to display memorabilia from the First World War and to install flags at the school associated with the remembrance of those who have served. I also recently announced a best funding of nearly $23,000 to Mornington Peninsula Legacy at Mount Eliza House within my electorate, who do so much for the families of our veterans past and present. I know personally the work of Legacy. I mentioned my great-grandfather before, who served in World War I. After that conflict, from the effects of mustard gas poison, he passed away several years after the conflict. And as a result, my grandmother, as an only child, Patricia Wright, was put through school by Legacy when her father passed away at just the age of 48. And at the time, she was 11 years old. Without the help of Legacy, I know my grandmother's mother would have struggled to get by and to have supported my grandmother. Our government, Mr Deputy Speaker, is also committed to ensuring that service and sacrifice of our servicemen and women is appropriately commemorated and remembered by both current and future generations of Australians, and it is encouraging to see so much engagement around the centenary. Only this week as well, on the National Day of the National Apology to Victims and Survivors of Institutional Child Sexual Abuse, I was also joined in Parliament here by a local constituent of mine who actually experienced abuse while within the Defence Force within cadets as a 15-year-old. The Prime Minister later specifically mentioned these victims in Parliament during question time earlier this week, and acknowledged those who had been impacted. As we know, those who serve in our conflicts, both past and present, go through a lot, but there are also those who have been affected by us not operating things as they really should be. Lastly, I just wanted to note, Mr Deputy Speaker, that this government is committed to caring for the men and women who defend our country, our veterans past, and also our veterans current and future. We must continue to ensure that we look after veterans when they return from conflict, and that we prevent situations arising by taking immediate action to help them straight away and to connect them back into the community. While there is always more to be done, the government will continue to strive towards better meeting the needs of our veterans and their families. Of the almost 2 million people who have served in defence of Australia, more than 102,000 have made the ultimate sacrifice. So to all ADF personnel, the veteran community and those who support them, thank you. Thank you for all your service, and lest we forget.
Thank the member.